there's kind of two buckets for collectors. You have your high end collectors, which would be your. Whenever I was at DLC Atlanta, I witnessed somebody sending a wire transfer of $6,000 for a Rapunzel, and then also we have your everyday collectors. Stating aloud, if you are a hiring collector, Mike, let's say if money was not an object or
I am an
money
everyday
was
collector. Go ahead. Yes.
but but like if money was no object, you're a high-end collector. Where should those high-end bling collectors, what are some opportunities that you're seeing if people have the resources and are looking just to expand their collection and whatnot for a long term, or just to have the shiny stuff? Where would your mind go whenever it comes to the high-end collector market right now, Lorcana?
If my wife is listening and she's looking for a good 10th anniversary gift for her upcoming wedding anniversary, then I would like the Stitch D23 2022 Rockstar card. I will take into PSA 4. It does not matter. So no, but all kidding aside, guys, I think if you're coming in the high, so we should be speaking to Disney collectors, because Disney collectors can be very high end. They can be very exclusive. They can have very deep pockets, and I think that's why the D23 cards and the top 8 32 64 Lorcana Championship promo cards have commanded such a premium. But I do think there are some unique opportunities. I kind of alluded to it there. The D23 2022 Elsa card is priced astronomically. I haven't checked, Preston, but I think last time, I mean, 7 to 10 grand easy, depending on grading quality. It approaches the Golden Mickey tier and it makes sense because those D23 cards from 2022, my understanding is there's a print run of 900 of them, and there's 6 cards in the set. And so that is a very, very limited quantity of the first time you'll ever see Lorcana. Like, so that would be the equivalent of, what I don't want to make too many Pokemon equivalents, but that's the Logan Paul card. Like, like that's the one that the people are going to come in 20 years and try and buy for a fortune. So now would I buy the Elsa for 7 grand? No, I'd buy the Stitch for 2 or 3. Like I think Stitch is highly collectible. I think he sits in Elsa's shadow in Lorcana because she's a princess and the Elsa tax and all that. But if I think there's anywhere to make gains in Lorcana, I think it's Stitch. I think it's his prize card for the everyday collector, and I think it's the D23 2022 for his high end. But I also think that when you think about, I can't remember if it's the Baymax prize card that's only top 8 for a specific DLC era of this. Can you imagine a foil Baymax, which is now still playable for the next 12 months? We'll see where it goes after that. A nice blue sapphire card, cool art, beauty. Like we were talking about earlier, that's a gorgeous card, and to have that in the foil and have only one of 8 over, let's call it 8 events or what, I can't remember, but we're talking hundreds of people, less than thousands of people, and people are not, they're not tuning into it on the same level as that Elsa card for not, so I think that's where your opportunities are. I think it's in the prize cards from the first season. I think you have to get in touch with the folks from World Class Cards, or add DKP on Facebook, but like you got to figure. So it would probably be difficult to acquire, but I think that's where I would head if I were for those folks. So I completely different for everyday focus, but for the higher end stuff, I think that's where I would spend my money. But I'm not sure I would want to spend more than maybe one high end Grail card just to have the Mona Lisa in the house to show everybody, bring the guests over, say, look at how much this card costs, and they
Welcome
say,
to my
Mike,
home. Here's
you're
my
an
cards.
idiot. Yeah, so like no, but I think that's okay to have that one piece, but I wouldn't go too deep in it because, like I said, Lorcana could become a mainstay in collecting. It might not be. So I think you have to be realistic about that and be smart. I'd rather diversify and buy 10 Stitch Rockstar promo cards or set champs cards than I would one of the D23, because I think that'll do you just fine, and that's a playable card too, right? That's something we can actually play, guys. We wouldn't want to pull out that D23 one, but we might consider playing the set champs card. So there's a wider market for that as well, I think.
And for our listeners, I think I pulled it up here on the side. The D23 Stitch Rockstar right now raw is setting at 2100 US, and then the Elsa is at 5400 US. So
That's come down. That's that. I feel like our friends at Cardboard Kingdom were telling us 7 grand at not too long ago, Preston. So I don't know exactly where that was. That might be in a grade 10 variety or something, but it tells you what you're dealing with. I mean, that's the Charizard. That's the staple card. That's the one that you're kind of looking at and matching everything else up against. So I think it's always going to govern the market forever in Lorcana, I think, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah. And Or realistically, the everyday person, the three four of us sitting at this table and all of our
Us.
listeners.
Yeah.
Us. More realistically, where should the everyday collector be focused in Lorcana?
I can be quick on this one. I like the idea. I like set championship cards. They're just as cheap as location enchanteds, and I think they're awesome. The Jafar being 20 to 25 US is a sin. The hero is a beautiful card. Maybe even the Scar from set 6. Like there are great opportunities. Now I realize that the Stitch and the Ursula will always command a premium because that was given out to top 4 finishers instead of top 8. So there is going to be, but even the difference between that Stitch, I think you mentioned, is roughly 500 for a PSA 9. That sounds about right. I've seen it as low as 300 for raw. The Ursula usually holds strong around 100-ish, give or take. And so rotation has shook a little bit of this up, guys. We are sort of in a settling point for these, but I love set championship cards. I think they're super cheap, and you get to avoid the locations and the actions. I prefer to get the character cards when it comes to pure collectability as opposed to the actions and stuff. It's almost like I try to explain it to my sports friends is you can get the base card of the rookie, or you can get the insert card, which is like cool and all that, but it's never gonna. They always want the original, so you want the Ariel as opposed to Ariel's song is the best way I could say it. So I tend, when I'm collecting purely for the idea of potential value in mind, that's how I think. I'm excited about iconics, guys. When the dust settles, I want them all. I'm the convention. I love the idea. Convention promos are interesting, but so that the Gen Con style, you guys got a lot of there, so maybe you can speak to how neat those was. And they have a pretty darn good market considering you're attending events you'd like to go to anyways. You're kind of happy to shell out for anyways. But I like the idea of the prize wall cards now. I would be looking at the Cinderella Stout Hearted, the Rapunzels, the ones that have been rotated out recently. They've taken a dip because they're no longer playable. Find it from somebody that has it in good quality, that never took it out and played it in their deck, and you can get a good shot at a PSA 10. I think even though it's not the foily type from the DLC, I think it's got a lot of legs, and I think those cards are cheaper than they're ever going to be, to be honest with you. So those would be my recommendations. But I'm curious as to what you guys might think, and also what your experience was having those convention promos all in one place up close to be able to get a few of them. That must have been pretty cool, eh, boys?
It was pretty neat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was still it's not something that's just handed out either. So
Yeah.
value wise, I don't know how to necessarily look at it from a collector standpoint because I haven't been keeping up with the value. But like those goofies alone, I know we've talked about it previously, but those were like $20 a pop. You were paying $20 essentially up front for that goofy because that was the minimum that you had to spend at the booth in order to receive that promo.
Right on. Okay.
The Goofy is at 20 right now, actually.
I think most of them are 20 or more, guys. Like, I mean, some of them will settle a little
Yeah.
lower, but I think you're looking at 20 plus, depending on how perceived the rarity is.
Yeah. It's a pretty good price for a promo.
But the events themselves were really
Annas
cool.
I've seen for like $40. Those aren't event necessarily, but they're all over the place. They come from everywhere apparently. So, but they seem to keep up a pretty high price, despite what I'd suggest is wider distributions than the Goofy. That's an interesting one. It's not the Elsa tax. Is it the Frozen tax? I guess I don't know. But yeah,
Maybe.
lots of places you can
That's
go on
the
those.
is that the
on those
icebreaker?
yeah, I think that's the one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Anna Icebreaker. She's shown up in a few different places that Ravensburger's given her out in different places around the globe. So she seems to have a bigger distribution, but carries a pretty good price point for what I think is a pretty heavily handed out card.